Welcome to the MarketRent Weekly Brief, your go-to source for the latest insights and updates in the real estate market. Each week, we'll bring you the most important news and trends to help you stay informed and make smart decisions. Let's dive into this week's episode.
If you're operating affordable housing, particularly under Section 8, you know the drill. It's tough. You've got aging properties, costs are always going up.
Right. And you're trying to provide good quality housing and services.
Exactly. But here's something we've been looking into. What if there's a real chance you're sort of leaving money on the table?
Yeah, that's what our look at the recent HUD analysis suggests. It seems like a significant number of Section 8 owners have rents that are actually below what the market could support right now, based on the proper fair market rent standards, that is.
Below market. So that's potential income just missed. Income that could really help with those challenges you mentioned.
Precisely. It's a gap, and it could be pretty instrumental in tackling repairs, upgrades, you name it.
Okay, so today, let's really dig into that. How do you figure out if this applies to your property? And more importantly, what can you actually do about it? Especially when it's time for that Section 8 contract renewal.
We'll definitely be talking about the HUD Section 8 Renewal Policy Guidebook and Rent Comparability Studies, RCS, for short. They're the main tools here.
And didn't HUD make some updates recently to streamline things?
Yes, exactly. Some adjustments to make renewals a bit clearer and also clarify how they value resident services, which is pretty important.
Okay, good. So let's break this down. Why are these rents below market in the first place? What's going on?
Well, a big piece of it is how HUD calculates fair market rents, the FMRs. It's evolved over time.
Right. It used to be these really broad, like citywide averages, didn't it?
That's right, based on the whole metropolitan area. But then they brought in small area fair market rents, SAFMRs, and that changed the game quite a bit.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. SAFMRs, they're calculated by zip code.
Exactly. Zip code level.
Think about what that means for a second. Rent isn't the same across a whole city, right? It varies wildly, block by block sometimes.
Absolutely. Huge differences between neighborhoods.
So this zip code approach, the SAFMRs, means the actual market rent for your specific building, maybe in a really desirable spot, could be way higher than those old averages suggested.
Precisely. It reflects that local reality much better. HUD's kind of catching up to the fact that these broad averages could mask big disparities, potentially undervaluing properties in stronger submarkets.
So it's correcting for that potential undervaluation. An opportunity maybe some owners haven't fully grasped yet.
I think that's fair to say. And then there's another really critical factor, the recent HUD updates around valuing non-shelter services.
Ah, yes, the March 2023 update to Chapter 9 of the guidebook.
That update brought some needed clarity on how those services are assessed in the rent.
And the big one there, effective May 1st, 2023, internet and broadband. They're now explicitly eligible to be valued as a non-shelter service.
Yes, which is huge, right? Internet isn't really an extra anymore for most people.
No, it's fundamental.
Yeah.
So if you're providing that, HUD now officially says, okay, that has value. It can be part of the rent calculation.
It's a significant development, absolutely. But it's also an area where things can go wrong in the rent comparability studies. Owners can accidentally limit their potential here.
How so? What kind of mistakes do you often see in those RCS reports?
Well, several common ones. Sometimes it's just selecting the wrong comps, the comparable properties they use in the study. They might not really match your property's location or condition or the amenities offered.
Okay, so not comparing apples to apples.
Exactly. Another big one is not properly documenting and, crucially, not valuing those non-shelter services we just talked about, especially internet now.
So you might be providing great services, but if you don't put a value on them in the study.
It's like they don't exist for rent-setting purposes. You also see owners sometimes overlooking unique neighborhood features that add value. And sometimes people are still using older methods that aren't quite aligned with the latest HUD Chapter 9 requirements.
Chapter 9 being the rule book for this stuff.
Right. It details how HUD looks at renewals and values different parts of the property. Any weak spot in that RCS, any of these mistakes, it directly cuts into the potential rent increase you could justify.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's maybe use an example to make it more real. You mentioned working with a nonprofit.
Yes, exactly. A nonprofit group with an elderly housing development out on the West Coast. They were doing, modest rent increases each year. They genuinely thought they were getting the maximum possible rent.
Okay. Seemed reasonable to them.
But their specific area, their submarket, had seen a lot of new market rate apartment construction recently. Big changes.
Ah, so the local market shifted significantly.
Right. So we did a SFMR analysis for their zip code and what's called a below FMR assessment. The results were, well, pretty eye-opening.
What did you find?
Their actual contract rents were lagging behind the market and the specific SAFMR for their zip code by 31%.
31%. Wow.
Yeah. Big gap. And remember, the old FMR system used those broad averages, so their property's value in that now desirable zip code was probably being held down artificially.
Right.
The SAFMR revealed the true potential.
So what was contributing to that gap beside the location?
Yeah.
The services.
That was a major part of it. When we dug in, we found several non-shelter services they were providing that weren't really being valued properly in their previous assessments.
Like what?
Things like high-speed internet access they provided to all residents, professional security staff on site, a nice community room with computers, plus they had a pretty full schedule of activities for the residents.
So real value adds. But they weren't getting credit for them in the rent.
Not fully, no. So we walked them through a phased approach to the rent comparability study.
Right.
Started with a preliminary assessment just to gauge the potential.
And what did that initial look suggest?
That first phase, it pointed towards potential for over $190,000 in additional revenue annually.
Wow. $190,000 a year. That's transformative for a property like that.
It really can be. So based on that, they decided, okay, let's go for the full, comprehensive Section 8 RCS.
The deep dive.
Right, the full study. That gave them all the detailed backup needed to meet HUD compliance and actually secure those much higher market-justified rents. And, the money they invested in getting that professional RCS done, they made it back many times over in just the first year of the increased rent.
It's almost like finding hidden money, isn't it?
Right, pretty much, yeah. Money that was technically theirs based on the market, but they just weren't accessing it.
Okay. So for you listening right now, managing your own property, how do you figure out if you might be in a similar situation, if you have this kind of untapped potential?
There's a straightforward kind of 3-step process you can use for an initial evaluation.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1, assess your current small area FMR. Go to HUD's website, look up the SAFMR database, find your property's zip code, note down the rates for 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, whatever unit types you have.
Got it. Find my specific zip code's SAFMR numbers on the HUD site. Step 2.
Step 2 is compare. Take those SAFMR numbers you just found and put them side by side with your current contract rents for each unit type. Calculate the difference, maybe as a percentage. This gives you that first look, are you potentially below the FMR?
Okay, compare my rents to the zip code FMRs to see if there's a gap. And step 3.
Step 3 is about those services. Really evaluate all the non-shelter services you provide. Make a list. And definitely don't forget and remember, HUD explicitly recognizes its value now. Think about security, community rooms, computers, programs, anything extra you offer.
Right, so check the official numbers, compare them to my rents, and then list out all the value adds I provide.
Exactly. It gives you a much clearer picture. Now, if that quick check suggests you might be below market,
Yes, what then?
then it might be worth considering a low-risk phased RCS approach, like the case study we talked about.
Okay, how does that work? Phase 1.
Phase 1 is a preliminary rent assessment. It's basically a professional analysis that benchmarks your rents against the market and the SAFMRs properly. It also identifies and puts a preliminary value on those non-shelter services that might be undervalued. It gives you a solid estimate of your potential Section 8 rent increase.
So a professional first look to see if it's worth pursuing further.
Precisely. And if that preliminary look is positive, if it shows real potential,
Then you move to phase 2.
then you move to phase 2. The full Section 8 RCS. This is the really in-depth study. It provides all the detailed HUD-compliant documentation you need to justify and capture the maximum possible rent increase during your contract renewal.
And you mentioned this is useful for acquisitions, too.
Oh, absolutely. Doing this kind of deep RCS analysis is incredibly valuable if you're looking at buying a Section 8 property. You need to know the true income potential. And getting the valuation of those non-shelter services right is key in both renewals and acquisitions. You really want expertise there.
So it seems like getting your rents aligned with the market isn't just about, more income. It's strategic. It's about the property's long-term health.
It really is. It's about ensuring you have the financial stability to maintain the property well, maybe even improve it, keep providing good services for the residents.
Yeah, that makes sense. Capturing that untapped revenue allows you to reinvest.
Right. Reinvest in the property, enhance services, contribute to the long-term success of affordable housing in your community. It's a win-win, really.
Okay, this has been really insightful. So, for all the multifamily developers, owners, property managers listening, if this sounds like something you need to look into for your properties, if you think you might have below-market Section 8 rents, and you want to explore what your options are for an increased assessment,
Yeah.
we've got a clear next step for you, right?
Yes. There are tools available.
Or you can schedule a quick, complimentary 15-minute chat with the specialists at Clarendon.
They really focus on this Section 8 market alignment, expert HUD rent comparability studies, getting that non-shelter service valuation right.
So the message is clear. Don't leave that potential revenue just sitting there. It's worth investigating.
Absolutely. Take action. It's about ensuring the long-term financial health and, honestly, the quality of your properties.
That's it for this week's edition of the Market Rent Weekly Brief. To access more insights and resources, visit marketrent.us. Thank you for listening. To learn more about how Clarendon can help you achieve your real estate goals, please visit us online. We appreciate your trust in us as your go-to source for market intelligence. Our goal is to equip you with the critical insights and data necessary to make informed decisions. Until next time, stay informed and stay ahead.